Hello, and welcome to another edition of BCAT's Burlington 2018 Town Election Coverage. I'm B News Director Rich Hosford, and today I am joined by the only planning board candidate on the ballot, Paul Raymond. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you very much, in spite of the fact that I'm not opposed, but it's nice to have an opportunity to present to the public.
Yeah, that's why we wanted to have you come in, at least get people to another, I'm sure most people know you, but in case they don't, just sort of, a chance to sort of see what you're all about and,
Sure.
and why you're running. So I was looking at the website today, and I noticed that you were first elected to the planning board in 1990. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that makes you almost 30 years.
Yes, I'll be starting my 28th year
Right.
After the election.
So what keeps you interested in the planning board after all this time?
Well, when we moved here, we looked, when we were going to move we were living in Cambridge, and when we started looking around as to where we were going to move, we looked at Lexington and Bedford and Wilmington and so forth, and we really thought that Burlington offered the best opportunity because the house lots were half acre, which is, a good size, and we saw the opportunity of the town developing and taking advantage of, as the real estate people say, location, location, location. And we thought that in the future, the town would develop the intersection of Route 3, and it was 128 at that time, commercially. And so we thought there was a pretty good chance that we could have a town where we had relatively low taxes and a lot of services. And
so you used your insight to, even as a homeowner, to forecast into the future.
Yes, sure, yeah.
And then, but what about the work of the planning board? What keeps you going as far as that goes?
The work? Well, let me give you an example of something that's before us now. What was the old Nike site was acquired by Northeastern after the government didn't need it any further, and it sat there for quite a while, and then they received a large amount of money, a gift, and they put up the Costas building, which is a good size, a wonderful building, and it's primarily involved with Homeland Security. And Northeastern has made a decision. They used to be a work-study school, but they decided to try to elevate their status academically. So they have come before us with a very large research building. And they want to locate it in a location that backs right up to Mary Cummings Park, because that's one of the limits of their property. And there's a feeling generally that a building that big would be a detriment to the park. So that's before us right now, and we are working on with Northeastern to see if we can't mitigate that.
Right, and it's been a lot of discussion about that. I've seen a lot of people there at your meetings.
Yes.
I think you went to about 12:30 in the morning
Yes,
last
they did.
week.
One of the meetings, the newspaper said that it went for 2 hours, but Josh, our assistant planner, said no, it went 3 hours. But many times people come before us, as Northeastern did, and unfortunately they had made all their plans and not talked with the planning board or with our staff. And so they come and put a plan before us and say, this is what we want. And not unusually, we think that we can improve on what they want, and that's what we work on, to try to take a situation like that where they come for us and say, please rubber stamp this is what we want, and we say, well, that has some implications and some things that we think we can mitigate, so please work with us.
Yeah, so you want to see more collaboration between the businesses and the town as far as coming up with something that works for
the town.
For the town as well as.
And we've done that with virtually all of our commercial buildings. And as you can see, our commercial sector is the envy of everybody around us. There are only 2 towns in Massachusetts that have more jobs than people, and one of them is Burlington. We only have 25,000 people, and we have almost 50,000 jobs, and they're all good jobs. So we've really turned into an economic engine for this whole area, and we've done it in such a way. Well, I'll give you one example. Home Depot wanted to put a big building right across the top of the hill where the cinema is now, and we thought that we would be better off if we could attract first-class office buildings. And so we more or less said to Home Depot, maybe there's some other locations around you ought to look at. And they said no. They presented themselves as a lumber yard and said, we're a lumber yard, and that's a by right use there. And we said, well, all of your material for your stockholders says you retail. And so they fought us a bit, but then they went away. And the same thing happened with Dave & Buster's that wanted to locate in Burlington.
Yeah, that was, what, 2010 or so, right? They wanted to be down in Middlesex Commons, was it?
Yes, it was right on that property that's just before you go, on Middlesex Turnpike, before you go under Route 95, 128-95. There's a strip mall there now.
Oh, okay.
But
yeah, and what was the sort of thinking behind going, ruling against the Dave & Buster's or working in?
Well, I think one of the things, and one of the things that was that I was in particular concerned about is that their business model is that they have all these gaming machines and so forth, which attract young people, and they're great. They can play and so forth. But they also served liquor, and they were going to have like little tables where you could drink while you were playing in the games.
Right.
And we didn't think we really wanted that because there's always a potential, when you're going for long periods of time and drinking and so forth, for events that you don't want to happen. And as a matter of fact, about a month after we denied them, they had put one in Braintree, and there was an article in the newspaper about a fight that had broken out in the parking lot outside of the Dave & Buster's in Braintree. So we suggested to them that there were some good locations in Woburn, and they went there.
Yeah, they took one of those. I drove by it just the other day. So we talked a little bit about this, but just in general, a lot of people in town, they talk about how they remember Burlington as a farm and community,
Yes.
all sorts of areas
Sure.
that are developed now, not developed. So since your time on the planning board, so let's talk about, in general, how you've seen the town change and how you feel the planning board helped shape that change.
Well, as a matter of fact, when I happened to, I work for a pharmaceutical company, and the mayor of Cambridge, his name was John Lynch, he had a pharmacy in North Cambridge, and we, used to talk, and so something was said one day, and I said, well, we're moving to Burlington. And he said, Burlington? He said, that's nothing but pig farms and a ham works, which was true. It was known for Reed Ham Works. But this whole area, Wilmington and so forth, were pig farms. And until a significant time after we lived here, McCarthy's pig farm was right across from St. Malachy's Church. So here was open land. It was not close enough to Lowell to be a suburb. It was not close enough to Boston, and there was a lot of open land, and they put Route 128 through. And there were a lot of young people like me who went into the service. I wouldn't happen to be young enough, so I was not in World War II in Korea, but I went into the service and came out, and I had the GI Bill. So we were able, with no down payment, to purchase a house, and we foresaw Burlington as a wonderful residential community, that if we worked it well, we could develop the commercial sector and have affordable housing. And you can see we spend, I'm also a recreation commissioner, and the town of Burlington spends almost $2 million total on recreation.
Yeah, wow, I didn't really know exactly what the price was, but I know there's a lot of programs.
Yes, I mean, we have wonderful, wonderful recreation programs, and we spend our per pupil cost in our schools. I think the highest was Carlisle. I have a big study that was done in 2017, and Carlisle was the highest. I think Lexington and Winchester were right behind them, and also Bedford, and their cost per pupil was $20,000, and ours was over 19,000. So, you know, we not only honor education in our schools, but we have the money to support that.
And how about the way that the town is developed? You know, it's kind of, I think people appreciate the more residential side and then the more commercial side. Was that something that was sort of like foreseen or planned, or how did that kind of come about, the way that we have the Middlesex Turnpike side?
Yeah, it was very straightforward. We were primarily, and I have been, my primary interest since I began was to maintain our residential communities and protect the residential communities that went forward. And we were fortunate, there was an MIT engineer, his name was Mike Wazowski, who ran, and he became chairman of the Board of Selectmen. This was about 1970, and I was his campaign manager. And so off we went. He said, if we want to attract really top-level commercial enterprises like we have now, like Oracle and Microsoft and so forth, he said they need certain things. He said the first thing they look for is water and sewer. They look for infrastructure. So we really bit the bullet. It cost us a lot, but in approximately at that time, we sewered the whole town at once. And that's unheard of because it's so expensive. Most towns do a little piece here and a little piece there. But we sewered the whole town at once. We went out and bonded it and said that it would be connected, of course, and available to the commercial sector, but also it would have to go by every house in town, and you had 10 years to hook up. If you didn't hook up at the end of 10 years, the town could put a lien against your house and so forth. So everybody had to hook up, which we did, which was great, because we all had septic systems, and they're okay, but once we got sewerage, my wife could do 3 loads of wash on a day, and that made her very happy. So we did that, and at the same time, which I didn't see how that was going to be done, but for water, I think Metcalf and Eddie was our consultants at that time, and they said that you could take Mill Pond, which was really, that was just a swampy area down there, and build a dam and pump water from the Shawsheen and use that as a backup to our well field, because we were fortunate we had our own well field. So when the people began to come and look in eastern Massachusetts for a place to locate, we said, we have the location, we have sewer, we have water, and in they came. And we were selective. I remember Jack Kelly was there when we first hired a planner, and some of the big box stores like BJ's and so forth started looking very closely at Burlington. And again, instead of having a big box store like Home Depot at the corner of the Middlesex Turnpike and Bedford Street, we were able to get Sun Microsystems with that campus. I used to call it Oz when people were looking for Sun Microsystems. I just said, go down Bedford Street and look to your left and you'll see Oz with all those beautiful buildings and so forth. And you got a much higher tax rate.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you mentioned the Northeastern project. You know, what else do you see as, you know, issues, important issues before the planning board currently or in the near future?
Well, one thing, they kid me about it now somewhat, but when Route 3 was built, that was intended to go to Boston. And Governor Volpe, who was from Winchester and had been governor, and then became, I believe it was Nixon's Secretary of Transportation.
Oh, okay.
He said, when he looked and saw that Route 3 was going to go down by the Winchester Country Club, he said, "Not going to happen." No, really.
Wow.
So it was stopped at Route 128, and to take, I'm sure, Mass Department of Transportation and so forth were not happy with it, but he made the determination. So he have a major artery coming from New Hampshire and Lowell in that area, that commercial area, down to go to Boston, and it's all dumped in Burlington. It didn't make a lot of difference before we really developed that area, but the more we developed, the more it was important that we have that intersection designed so it wasn't just dead-ended with so I should have brought it, a drawing from 1962 by Mass Department of Transportation, and it shows some ramps so that now, for instance, when people are coming south and they want to go up Route 3, you have to get off there and the traffic comes around from the Middlesex Turnpike and so forth. And there was a whole design, but we never, for some reason, had the political horsepower or anything to get it done. And as a result, now, when you're coming down, the traffic backs up from Burlington because we've got so many jobs. It backs up. In the morning, I go skiing, and if you go north on Route 3, sometimes it backs up to 495 in Lowell.
Yeah.
The traffic,
Wow.
and you can't even get over to the right if you want to go south because there's so much. Because all our kids live south, so we never leave the house till like 10:30 in the morning.
Yeah. Sorry. So changes to that Route 3 128 area.
Right, yeah, and I used to carry that around to the meetings. And as a matter of fact, it got to the point, if you want to get a project that size done, you have to go through other things but the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. So I became the planning board representative to them. And we tried to get them, you have to get something called the TIP, which is the Transportation Improvement Project. Each town, every year, each sub-region makes a submission, and the TIP goes to the whole group, and then a TIP is picked, and that gives you a much better chance of the project being done. So Ernie Zabalotny, who was town meeting member, and I began attending all the meetings, and Eric Barassa was I forget his title, but he was the head one as far as transportation projects, and he finally, like in 2015, he says, "Look, go away and don't bother me." He says, "You're not going to get any money this year or next year or the year after." So,
But there's still hope.
yes, there is. And somebody said, "Well, you'll have to when they have your wake. I hope that plan is somewhere," because it was so dear to your heart. We did get one thing done, which was a small project, but it shows you how much even a small project can do. I lobbied hard. If you're coming north on Route 95 from Lexington and you want to go up Route 3, there was only one lane for many years. And so all the traffic compresses there, and it's back and forth and so forth. And I said, when they were going to build Route 3, they made the bridge 2 lanes over in 128. And I said, why don't you just put another lane, and at least you can have 2 lanes going around? And just if my wife would say, it's not going to happen, Paul. Keep at it. But I said, why don't you just make that 2 lanes? It's not going to cost that much, and that'll help a little.
Yeah.
And finally, Ken Gordon got on. He's the House representative to the Combined Committee on Transportation.
Right.
And he had the horsepower to get, I think it was almost $1 million total, because they said, well, that's not any major project and so forth, but they can find money somewhere if they want to. So within the last year and a half, the first time I came up and saw that they had made it 2 lanes, it was easy because it goes right around that open property where the road was supposed to go to Boston. And the first time I came up there, I said, I can't believe this, because you could go 2 lanes up, and it was, as a matter of fact, I was so unbelieving that the next day I drove down to Bedford
Just to test it.
and turned around and said, whoopee, I'm going to go back up. But there are so many other things like that that could be done. But so you just have to keep at it.
Absolutely. Well, we're just about out of time. I did want to give you the opportunity, though, if you wanted to sort of, as we say, take your camera, make a just sort of a direct message to people of Burlington that are watching this.
Well, thank you very much. I'd like to do that.
Absolutely.
And I want to thank the
This
people.
one over here.
This one over
With
here.
the red light.
Okay, as you can tell, I'm not on TV much, but I just want to thank you. I've had wonderful support, and the people of Burlington have always reelected me. There were some tough campaigns. I remember one that I think it was 10 votes that I won by, but every time I've run for an office, I've been supported. And when we've gone to people, they were willing to support me. And this last election was very nice. A number of people came up to me and said, "I'm glad you're running again." So although on the downside of my political career, I still have the interest, and I love Burlington, and I want to keep it like it is, keep our great neighborhoods. And we're going to keep going after Mass Department of Transportation, and we'll get some things done at that intersection one way or another. Keep reelecting me and I'll work on it. But thank you very much, Rich.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming in. And thank everyone for watching. And don't forget to vote. The election will be held on Saturday, April 7th. Polls will be at the Burlington High School Gymnasium, and they will be open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And thanks again for watching, and we will see you next time.